Uh, Hello and welcome to Candidates Up Front. Sorry about that. I had the wrong page in front of me. Welcome to Candidates Up Front, a public interest election program of Berks Community Television and the League of Women Voters of Berks County. I'm Bill Litfin, a member of the League. Our November 8th general election is coming up. We will vote for state and federal officials. The deadline to register is October 24th. The League is interviewing candidates who wanted to be interviewed in contested races. For each race, the candidate will get the same basic questions and will have the same amount of time to answer them. Two candidates are competing in the 124th Pennsylvania House District, Democrat Tina Burns and Republican Jamie Barton. This district is the northern corner of Berks County, including Strausstown, Kutztown, and Maxatawny. It also includes part of Schuylkill County. State representatives serve a 2-year term in the state legislature in Harrisburg. They initiate legislation and vote to create laws. They pass the budget, including taxes and expenditures for the state. They help constituents with issues regarding state government. The salary for a state representative is $90,335 per year, plus benefits and expenses. Please note that the opinions expressed in this interview are those of the candidate and are not the opinions of the League of Women Voters or Berks Community Television. This interview is with Tina Burns. Welcome. Ms. Burns, please tell our viewers about yourself and why you are running.
Sure. Thank you for having me here today. And really, why I'm running is simple, because someone needed to step up and start fighting for the people. I'm a non-politician. I grew up in Schuylkill County, originally from Chicago, moved there when I was 5. Spent most of my childhood in New Ringgold in the outskirts, so very rural area. And what I just simply loved growing up in that area. At the time, I didn't realize it, so I went away for a little while after high school, but I returned to raise my own child in this environment because I just simply love the area. The reason I really stepped up was I found out that the incumbent was retiring. I was not really a fan of the incumbent, given some history where my mother in 2018 was in need of dialysis. Therefore, she needed transportation because my sister and I, who are in this area, had to work. We couldn't jump in the car necessarily every 2 days and take her to her rides. And it was shocking to me because you never really understand what's going on until it affects you and your life personally. Mm-hmm. So from that, I developed this, well, oh my God, this is my mother and she needs help and I can't find it. I had always assumed it was going to be available and shockingly found out that it was not. So that's one of the main reasons I stepped up, but one of many.
You are a Democrat. What draws you to your party?
Mostly it's because many of my core values fall in line with what what the Democratic Party stands for.
Are there things about your party that you're not comfortable with?
No, nothing out of the ordinary. I mean, kind of like, a sibling. You always love your sibling, but, you might have a little fight here or there. Nothing crazy.
Okay. In the General Assembly, your party will want you to vote the party line. People who voted for you will want you to vote their view. People who did not vote for you will still expect you to represent their views, and you will have your own ideas. How will you balance these expectations? Tell us your thinking process.
I've been many things in my past lives. Currently, I'm a healthcare consultant. But prior to that, I was a HR director for a large corporation. Given that experience, and also I've been a compliance officer along the way as well, so not popular positions by any means. And I've frequently been put in the position where I had to make decisions. Okay, company decisions versus employee decisions, and now let's get that happy middle so everyone can get, you know, their fair share of the pie, so to speak. So really, I plan to approach it just as I would when I was an HR director and a compliance person, and really not so much party line, but what is best for the overall masses and how can we get to a middle ground.
On the first day of the legislative session, you will be asked to approve the rules of conducting business. These rules allow committee chairs who represent only 17% of Pennsylvanians to block legislation even if the majority of legislators support it. Should these rules stay as they are or be changed?
They certainly need to be changed. There's a lot of antiquated legislation in Pennsylvania that needs to be taken care of.
And any idea how you might accomplish that?
Since I am a non-politician, I'm sure there's some things that I will not initially be aware of, how to maneuver and work through, but you know, that is why people, you know, I seek people out that have this knowledge, so I would lean on them to help me through the process.
Lately, to get around the governor's veto pen, the legislature has written constitutional amendments to be voted on in primary elections which have low turnout. In the long run, do you feel it is appropriate to enshrine in our state constitution things that are normally handled legislatively?
What's going on right now is completely wrong, and it needs to be addressed. I am certainly for the process, because without process, we're just all flailing around. So this is definitely something that has to be addressed, and you should not go around or, you know, use loopholes, if you will, to fix something or change something to support your personal ideologies or notions.
Everyone I know is pro-life, but it means different things to different people. Ending gun violence is pro-life, preventing climate change, protecting endangered species, being against abortion, being in favor of choice on abortion, universal health care, ending the death penalty, all pro-life. On which of these issues or other issues do you consider yourself pro-life?
Certainly universal health care. As a healthcare consultant, yes, it's a right. I am death penalty, that can go away. As far as a woman's right to choose her own health or make her own healthcare decisions, absolutely. That is a woman's right. Women have rights too. And overall, really what I'm about is everyone that is a human has equal rights and should be allowed to have those equal rights under any state or federal laws.
So are there any particular gun laws that you might advocate for?
Sensible gun ownership. You know, I'm a concealed weapons permit holder. I certainly believe in the Second Amendment, but we also need to have reasonable regulation. And you know, I don't believe that we need semi-automatic weapons, or not semi, sorry, assault rifles. And if we want an assault rifle, and they're fun to shoot, by the way, join the military. That's the place for them. They were designed for military use, and that's where they belong.
Pregnancy is not benign. In the United States, for every 100,000 pregnant women, 23.8 die during or soon after pregnancy. This is much, much higher than other developed nations. It especially hits minorities and rural women. Does Pennsylvania have a responsibility to provide more support to pregnant women to prevent these deaths?
Absolutely, we do. Not even just Pennsylvania. As humans, we need to take care of one another, and in areas where we're not taking care of one another, we need to do better. We can do better, and we need to do better.
So are there particular things that you think would be helpful, Family and Medical Leave Act, or?
Family Medical Leave Act certainly should be paid for. We're unlike any country out there. You know, many countries have a blanket across the board paid family leave. We should be no different. We're a wealthy country, but we choose not to distribute our wealth in ways that will benefit the masses, only the elites and 1%ers, and that has to change.
And any thoughts about rural hospitals or rural health care?
It's a definite issue. As I said when we first started, there's a lack of accessibility in our rural areas, and we can do better and should do better, even if it is getting transportation out to those areas.
The Pennsylvania legislature recently voted to spend $20 million to help religious institutions and schools add security to their buildings. The money is much appreciated, but with every invention of another weapon, we need to up the security again. Gun violence costs the United States $557 billion annually. For perspective, that's more than 10 times Pennsylvania's annual budget. It's police, ambulances, hospital emergency rooms, and ongoing care for the wounded. These costs add to inflation. What can the legislature do to reduce gun violence and reduce the cost to taxpayers and to the companies that provide health insurance to their employees?
It starts with sensible gun laws and regulations. I mean, we do it with cars and automobiles. We regulate it. It's not, you know, something that we should not be doing for guns. And again, you know, some may look at my response and be, oh, you know, they're coming for our guns. She wants our guns. No, I don't want anyone's guns as long as they're responsible gun owners. If they are not responsible gun owners, just like a car, I don't want you driving a car endangering someone else if you're not responsible behind the wheel. Same thing goes for guns. And we need to start putting in things that support this type of idea.
Berks County is 50% agricultural. We know growing seasons have changed. So far this summer, Pennsylvania has been spared the massive destruction of wildfires and floods occurring in some other states. But storms are more destructive and we have drought. Should Pennsylvania do more to protect our economy by doing more to prevent climate change? What actions do you think the legislature should or shouldn't take?
We've started to take action, which I'm very happy and pleased with, but like everything, you know, baby steps, but we can be doing a lot more than what we're doing. We need to push faster and farther on coming up with cleaner energy alternatives, because it ultimately affects our agriculture through climate change. And a side note from that, not just ramping up our efforts towards climate change, we need to ramp up our efforts towards supporting our farmers. They're half of our state, and we kind of have left them, you know, to fend for themselves in many respects. And even in the Berks County area, you know, let's take away farmland and give it to large, you know, buildings that we have nobody to employ in those buildings. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in respect to not only climate change, but taking care of our farmers and our agriculture industry, especially in Pennsylvania.
Any thoughts about concentrating more on crops that use less water, or livestock that uses less water, anything like that?
Well, yeah, absolutely. But that's where we need to support our farmers. They need technology. They need help, just like anyone else in an industry that's evolving with the technical age. We need to help them as a state come up with these advancements and, you know, infrastructure. That goes back to our infrastructure as well. Many of them can't even use technology because they don't have internet access.
The 2022-2023 state budget contains large increases for education funding, but it's a one-year thing. We have 500 school districts in Pennsylvania, most of which rely heavily on the property tax because the legislature hasn't agreed to a long-range plan for school funding. And we have charter schools that pull $2.6 billion from the public schools' budgets. Some say Pennsylvania's charter school law doesn't provide the transparency and accountability that is required of our public schools. Two questions. What is your view on how Pennsylvania funds both public schools and charter schools, and do we need charter school reform?
I will answer the quick one first, and that is absolutely we need charter school reform. If they are teaching our children, we need to know what they're doing and how they're doing it. As far as funding our public schools, we have many answers for this already. Our state needs to chip in more money for our local schools. It's as simple as that. For many years, the Republicans have taken away continually from school funding at a state level. We need to give that money back to the locals. And in addition, we need to give the lower economical areas some support, because those are the low SES areas are the ones that are getting the shaft here, because all of their local money is very small because they're lower economic areas. So that's the areas that need the help. And instead of getting it from our state funding and other sources, we're telling people at poverty level, give more. And it's not possible. One idea, and since when Governor Wolf first got elected, he pushed for severance taxes on the natural gas companies, and he was going to utilize that money to give property tax relief, so the schools were not harmed, and those people in those lower areas also were given money. Had they allowed that to pass, people would have over $6,000 in their pockets over the course of the 7 years for the property taxes. And that correlates with the schools. So absolutely, we need to tax those gas companies, use those funds to support our schools and support our local residents with their property taxes.
Pennsylvania is one of 9 states with closed primary elections. The primary is the spring election where the main parties, the Democrats and the Republicans, choose their candidates. And unless there happens to be a nonpartisan question on the ballot, only Democrats and Republicans can vote. Some states have open primaries where all voters choose candidates. Research has shown that states with open primaries have more moderate or centrist candidates, while states with closed primaries have candidates who are more radical to the left or the right. Should Pennsylvania change how we run our primary elections? Please tell us why you feel as you do.
I would be completely for them for Pennsylvania changing their primary election rules, simply because when you limit who can vote, people are less engaged overall as voters. And if they don't, because you need a buy-in from the get-go. If you go to the supermarket and you have no choice, there's only one type of apple to choose from, you're like, okay, great. Anybody can go to the store and select that apple. So when it comes to the primary elections, we want all possible voters to have a choice and a buy-in into the election process. Because if we don't allow that to happen, we get extreme candidates, and that serves no one, because you end up with minorities representing we the people.
Compared to other states, Pennsylvania has rather weak laws on campaign finance limits and enforcement. And there are loopholes in the disclosure laws that apply to lobbyists. And lawmakers aren't banned from taking gifts. Do you feel these laws need to be strengthened, or are Pennsylvania laws fine for Pennsylvania?
I would, my apologies, I was writing a note on myself. I actually want to go back before I forget my thought. I want to clarify what I meant by minorities on the voting issue.
No problem.
I don't mean minorities as, any indigenous thing to a person. I mean minority that candidate represents only a minority of people. So my apologies for that. I got off track there.
No problem.
Now, to answer your next question, where absolutely we need to ban dark money, and we need to clean up the act. One of the craziest things, as a non-politician, I'm learning a whole lot on the campaign trail, and it's like crazy amounts of money that I don't necessarily see, but other candidates I see flooded in with money. And it's like, all this money could be used for so many other things for our communities, but it's like dumping money and money and money. So absolutely for reform, and state and federal, though my position wouldn't allow me federal, sure. We need to fix this. Need equal ground for every candidate.
Pennsylvania's election law is out of date. In the past 3 years, there have been hastily made legislative changes that didn't work out the way some legislators thought they would. We've had disagreements and court suits on how these hastily written laws should be interpreted. We've lost election officials because the job became so stressful due to constant changes. Certainly, there is a more reasonable way to bring our election code up to date. What kind of changes, if any, would you like to see in our election code?
I believe every voter, well, in our state, we have very low registered voters. First of all, I'm going to put a plug out there. Everybody go register to vote. Aside from that, we need to make voting available and easy for everyone. There's been a recent push where, let's not have ballot boxes. Let's not have mail-in voting. Let's, have IDs for every voter. That nonsense has to stop. We need to encourage people to speak up through their votes, not discourage them by, taking away opportunities and methods for them to vote. It seems the irony is those that have pushed for mail-in ballots now are saying, oh, it's a bad idea, simply because they've decided, oh, well, it's not working for us, so let's take that option off the table. We need to take care of we the people and stop with party politics across the board, and all the rhetoric has to go. It's about ordinary people. We are the people.
Do you think it would help if legislators had to work in a county election office, maybe 2 different counties, before they vote on new election laws? And would you be willing to do that?
Absolutely, yes. I think one thing, going back to my HR days, I had a lot of different positions underneath me, and it always helped to see what that person or those employees in a group of people are going through in order to better serve them as their HR, as their representative. So absolutely, I'd be willing to work anywhere that would be a position that would touch on something that I was, giving my opinion for in that position.
Founding father Alexander Hamilton fought for and set up the Federal Reserve Bank to set monetary policy. It is not in the Constitution, but is a driving force in handling inflation. Inflation is not a problem the Pennsylvania legislature can solve, so we haven't asked you how you would solve it. That said, should the legislature consider the inflationary or deflationary aspects of every bill it considers, and if so, how far forward should we look?
I'm not necessarily every single bill, but because not all bills are going to have that sort of effect on it. But yes, I mean, we have a responsibility. Even though we're just Pennsylvania, we are part of the whole United States. So we contribute to the overall well-being of our United States. And as such, we need to take responsibility for our state and need to look at things that would affect the overall inflation across the board.
We have about 2 minutes left. Would you like to make a closing statement?
Yeah, certainly. I'm not a politician. I've never thought I wanted to be a politician, and yet here I sit. I'm fighting because I'm a parent, I'm a grandparent, and I see things changing not for the better. And I want to make sure that I leave my kids something. I want to make sure that we as a whole leave our kids something of value, because the direction we're going right now is not a positive direction. And I'm not sure if I can make a change or not, but if I don't try, I will never know. And it's going to take all of us, a group effort, to get on board and, fight for our rights and fight for we the people. This position has had only 4 white Republican males in it for the past 50 years. And our areas have not changed very frequently. They're pretty much the same as they were 50 years ago. It's time we change the focus on us and not party and not the elites that, quite frankly, looking at my opponent, not even talking, look at his resume, look at mine. He is a VP for fossil fuel. I am an ordinary person trying to get by as a healthcare consultant. So when you go to the ballot box, kind of think who, by our resume, if you will, who is going to serve your interest? Fossil fuel VP or ordinary me? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Burns, for sharing your views with us. Viewers, please remember there is another candidate for the 124th Pennsylvania Senate District, Jamie Barton. You can see that interview on BCTV's website or YouTube page. To check your voting status, go to vote.pa.gov. You can register, change your party, locate your polling place, or apply for an absentee or mail-in ballot. The deadline to register is October 24th. The deadline to apply for a mail-in ballot is November 1st, but do it before that, please. Then check the League's online voting guide, vote411.org. You can see it on the screen there, to confirm your new voting district and to get more information on the candidates. Or contact Berks County Election Services, elections@countyofberks.com, 610-478-6490. Thank you for watching Candidates Up Front. I'm Bill Litvin. Good day.